The snow fell in soft, silvery flakes, coating the streets of downtown Chicago in a festive glow. The holiday lights reflected off the ice, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that seemed almost magical. But inside the Maple Diner, the magic was nowhere to be found. I stepped into the diner, brushing the snow from my coat. The smell of fried food and coffee hit me immediately, a stark contrast to the sweet scent of cinnamon and pine outside. The diner was half full, bustling with families finishing their Christmas Eve dinners. The laughter and chatter almost felt loud enough to drown out the tension in the air. That's when I saw her, Lila, a young waitress with a messy bun, sparkling green eyes, and a nervous smile that didn't quite reach her face. She moved quickly between tables, balancing plates of food with practiced ease, but there was a stiffness in her movements tonight. Something was wrong. A loud voice echoed from behind the counter. Lila. Office, now. The manager, a stern woman named Patricia, had that kind of glare that made the air itself feel heavy. Lila froze for a split second, then nodded and disappeared into the back. I ordered my coffee but couldn't stop my eyes from wandering. A few minutes later, Lila came out, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly as she held a notepad like a shield. I'm sorry, sir, she said quietly as she served my drink. I won't be working anymore after tonight. I blinked. Wait, what? Her voice cracked, and I saw the effort it took her not to start crying. I got fired, she whispered. On Christmas Eve. Can you believe it? It wasn't fair. I could see the years of hard work and dedication behind her eyes, and it hurt me to see it shattered so easily. I left a generous tip on the counter and stood up, gathering my courage. You deserve to be treated better than this, I said softly, meeting her gaze. No one should ever be fired like this, especially on Christmas night. Her eyes widened. Why would you say that? Because it's true, I replied. And I want to help. Lila laughed nervously, unsure if I was serious. But I meant it. Something about her bravery and resilience, serving customers with a smile even under such unfair treatment, called for action. I don't know what to do now, she admitted. I've got bills, rent, everything. I smiled. Then let's figure it out. Together. That night, snow still falling gently outside, I offered Lila a ride home. She hesitated, but the cold and the helplessness finally won. In the car, we didn't speak much at first. But the quiet was comfortable, a safe space where she could breathe. I noticed the small details, the way she clutched her coat, the slight tremor in her hands, the resilience hidden behind her weary eyes. You know, I said, breaking the silence, sometimes bad things happen to people who don't deserve them. But it's just life redirecting you to somewhere better. She looked at me, a faint smile forming. That's optimistic. I prefer to think of it as realistic, I replied. By the time we reached her apartment, I could tell she was exhausted. But there was also a glimmer of hope in her eyes. You've got someone who believes in you now, I said, handing her my business card. Call me if you need anything. Anything at all. She nodded, clutching the card like a lifeline. Christmas morning arrived with a quiet peace. I woke up to a phone call from Lila. I baked some cookies, she said shyly. I wanted to say thank you. Her voice had that fragile warmth that made me smile. I stopped by her apartment, and the smell of fresh-baked cookies welcomed me before she opened the door. She looked different, lighter somehow, not weighed down by yesterday's injustice. I thought maybe we could celebrate, you know, just the two of us, she said, offering me a plate. We sat by the window, watching the snowfall, talking about everything and nothing. I learned about her dreams, her struggles, her laughter that came easily when she wasn't trying to be strong. And for the first time, I realized just how unfair life had been to her, but also how much she still shined despite it all. Over the next few days, I helped Lila update her resume, applied for jobs with her, and connected her to friends who needed someone with her skills. She was hesitant at first, unsure if anyone would hire her after such an unfair dismissal. But every time I reminded her, "You deserve better," she grew more confident. And then it happened. A local cafe owner, impressed with her dedication and charm, offered her a position. She would even get full benefits, something she had never had before. Lila turned to me, eyes glistening. I can't believe this. You really helped me." "You did the hard work," I said. "I just made sure the world noticed." That evening, we took a walk through a nearby park, snow crunching under our boots, lights twinkling on the trees. There was a calm intimacy in the air, a feeling that even though life had been harsh, it was slowly balancing itself out. "I never thought anyone would care enough to step in like you did," she admitted. "I don't step in because I care," I said. "I step in because some people are worth fighting for. You're one of them." She laughed softly, a sound that warmed the crisp night air. "You really have a way with words, don't you?" "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I just speak the truth." We walked in silence for a while, simply enjoying the moment. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like someone who had been beaten down by life. She felt alive, seen, and hopeful. Over the next few weeks, Lila settled into her new job, thriving in an environment that appreciated her talent and kindness. I watched from the sidelines, feeling proud and secretly happy that she had a fresh start. One snowy evening, as we walked through the city streets lit with holiday lights, she grabbed my hand. "You know," she said softly, "I don't think I would have made it through Christmas without you." "You would have," I replied. "You just needed someone to remind you of it." She smiled, leaning into me. "Then thank you, for reminding me." We stood together, hands entwined, hearts warmed by the snow, the lights, and the possibility of new beginnings. And I knew that while Christmas could be cruel, it could also be the start of something beautiful. Months passed, and Lila flourished. Her laughter returned fully, and she began volunteering at local shelters during the holidays, paying forward the kindness she had received. One Christmas Eve, she looked at me with those sparkling green eyes and said, "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't said I deserved better." "You deserved better all along," I said. "I just helped you see it." She took my hand, squeezing it gently. "Then let's make a promise. No matter what happens, we never let anyone make us feel less than we are." I smiled. "It's a promise." And as the snow fell softly around us, I realized that sometimes, the worst nights could lead to the most beautiful beginnings. It had been a few weeks since Lila started her new job at the cafe, and her energy had completely changed. She walked with a lightness in her step that she hadn't had before, her green eyes sparkling with confidence. I had invited her over for dinner one evening, a small, cozy celebration, nothing fancy. The streets were quiet under a blanket of fresh snow, and Christmas lights reflected off the windows, giving the city a warm glow. When Lila opened the door, she was carrying a small box. "I brought something for you," she said, slightly embarrassed. "It's not much." I took the box with curiosity. Inside were homemade cookies, each carefully decorated with little snowflakes and stars. "You didn't have to," I said, touched. "I wanted to," she replied softly. "After everything. I felt like I should give something back." I smiled. "You already have. Just by being you." A few days later, we ran into a complication. Lila's former manager, Patricia, appeared unexpectedly at the cafe. She didn't look happy. "I see you're working here now," Patricia said with a thin smile. "I hope you realize how lucky you are." Lila's face hardened, and I could see her tension rise. "I was the one who worked hard and got fired unfairly," she said, her voice firm. "I've moved on. This job, this opportunity, is mine to keep." Patricia glared, muttered something under her breath, and left. Afterward, Lila turned to me, trembling slightly. I thought I was done with her. Why does she still get to affect me? I took her hand. She doesn't. You've proven your worth, Lila. Don't let her shadow take up space in your life. She exhaled, letting the tension leave her shoulders. You always know what to say. I just say what I see, I replied. And what I see is someone who's stronger than she realizes. One evening, after closing the cafe, we walked together under the glowing streetlights. The snow had stopped, leaving a quiet, magical stillness. Can I tell you something? Lila asked nervously. Anything, I said. I've never met anyone like you, she admitted. You stepped into my life at the exact moment I needed help. I feel different when I'm around you. Happy. Safe. Her words made my chest tighten. I had felt the same since the night I first saw her at the diner, but hearing her say it made it real. I feel the same, I confessed. And I think, maybe we've both been waiting for something like this without realizing it. She looked down, a soft blush coloring her cheeks. Do you think this could be the start of something? I took her hand gently. I know it is. As our relationship began to blossom, Lila still struggled with remnants of her past, the fear of being undervalued, the doubt that someone could truly care. One day, while walking through the park, she suddenly stopped. I still think about that night, when I got fired. It haunts me sometimes. What if life surprises me again, but in a worse way? I held her close. Life might throw challenges at us, but we face them together. You're not alone anymore. She leaned into me, resting her head on my shoulder. Thank you, for never giving up on me. You don't need me to fight for you, I said softly. You're capable of amazing things. I just get to remind you. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by bare winter trees dusted in snow, I realized that the bond we shared was more than just attraction, it was trust, safety, and hope for a future neither of us had imagined before. The next Christmas came quickly. Snow fell again, painting the city in brilliant white. This time, however, the holiday felt different. It felt like a true beginning. I had prepared a small surprise for Lila. When she arrived, I led her into my apartment, where the lights twinkled on a small tree, and warm cookies and cocoa waited. I thought we could make our own little Christmas, I said with a grin. Lila's eyes widened, tears forming. It's perfect. I've never felt so cared for before. We spent the evening decorating, laughing, and sharing stories of past holidays, both the joyful and the painful ones. And for the first time, Lila let herself completely relax, letting the weight of her past fall away. As the night came to an end, we sat by the window, watching the snow fall silently outside. She leaned into me, whispering, I never want to be anywhere else but here, with you. You don't have to, I replied, holding her close. Because I'm not going anywhere either. Over the next few months, our relationship strengthened. Lila thrived at her new job, gaining confidence and independence. Yet she still faced moments of doubt, moments when her past whispered that she wasn't good enough. Each time, I reminded her, you're not just good enough. You're extraordinary. And she began to believe it. Slowly, steadily. One evening, standing together on a snowy rooftop overlooking the city, she took my hands in hers. I want us to promise something, she said. Anything, I replied. No matter what happens, success, failure, challenges, we face them together. No running, no fear. I smiled, heart full. It's a promise. And as the city lights twinkled beneath us and the snow swirled gently around, I realized that what began as a night of unfair loss had turned into the beginning of a love neither of us expected, but both of us desperately needed. Several weeks had passed since Lila settled into her new job. She was thriving, her confidence growing, and I couldn't have been prouder. But life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. One late afternoon, Lila called me, her voice tight and anxious. "Something's wrong at the cafe," she said. "There's a rumor going around that I took something from the register." I didn't. My chest tightened. "Who said that?" "It's one of the new staff members. They don't know me yet, and they're spreading lies. I don't know what to do." I could hear the fear in her voice, the same fear she had felt the night she was fired months ago. My jaw clenched. I hated that anyone could make her feel small again. "Don't worry," I said firmly. "We'll fix this together. I'll go with you." When we arrived at the cafe, I could feel the tension in the air. Lila's eyes were wide, nervous, but determined. "I need you to stay calm," I whispered. "You've worked too hard to let this ruin you." The cafe manager, Mr. Thompson, looked concerned. "Lila, there's been some talk." "I didn't do anything wrong," Lila said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I've never taken anything, and I won't let false accusations ruin my reputation." I stepped forward. "I can vouch for her. She's dedicated, honest, and hard-working. This accusation is baseless." The tension broke slightly. Mr. Thompson nodded, clearly relieved to have a witness. Lila's co-workers glanced at her with awkward guilt. Within a few hours, the rumor was cleared, but the emotional strain lingered. "I thought, maybe people would always doubt me," Lila admitted later, tears brimming. "But you stood by me." "Always," I replied. "And I always will." That evening, after the cafe drama, we walked through a quiet, snow-dusted park. The city lights reflected off the snow, turning everything into a shimmering winter wonderland. "I've been meaning to tell you something," Lila said, stopping in the middle of the path. "Something I've felt for a long time." I looked at her, heart pounding. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. I think I love you. I have for a while now. Even when I was scared, even when life tried to break me, I felt it." I swallowed hard. The truth had been there in my heart from the first night I saw her at the diner. "I love you too, Lila. More than I've ever loved anyone." Her eyes filled with tears, a mixture of relief and joy. "You mean that?" "Every word," I said, pulling her close. Snowflakes melted on our hair and coats as we embraced, a promise of warmth in the cold winter night. Even with love blooming, life still had its challenges. Lila struggled with lingering fear from her past, the fear of losing her job, of being judged, of being undervalued. One evening, after a long day at the cafe, she collapsed onto the couch at my place, exhausted and defeated. "I feel like I'll never escape the shadows of my past," she whispered. I knelt beside her, taking her hands. "Your past doesn't define you, Lila. Look at everything you've accomplished. Look at who you are now. You're stronger, wiser, and braver than anyone I know." She looked at me, her eyes searching mine. "Do you really think I can be happy? Fully happy?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Because happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you let yourself have. And I'll be by your side every step of the way." Her lips trembled into a smile. "You make it sound so simple." "Sometimes simple is all we need," I replied softly. Not everything was smooth. One evening, a small misunderstanding turned into our first real argument. "I feel like you don't trust me sometimes," Lila said, frustration clear in her voice. "And I feel like you push me away when I try to help," I shot back. The silence that followed was thick, heavy, and uncomfortable. But I refused to let it linger. "I'm sorry," I said after a long pause. "I don't want to fight with you. I care too much to stay quiet." She softened, tears forming. I care too. I'm scared of losing you, or letting you down. I'm not going anywhere, I assured her. We're in this together. That's what matters. We held each other in the snow outside, letting the tension melt away in the cold night air. Spring arrived, bringing hope and fresh beginnings. Lila received an offer to train new staff at another cafe location, a promotion she had earned with her dedication and talent. I'm nervous, she admitted over coffee one morning. It's a big step. You're ready for it, I said. You've proven it time and time again. And I'll be there to support you, just like always. She smiled, the kind of confident, radiant smile that lit up the room. I don't know how I got so lucky, having you by my side. You don't need luck, I said. You have yourself. And you're amazing. Months passed, and the first anniversary of the night I first stepped into the Maple Diner arrived. We decided to visit the diner together, a symbolic gesture of how far Lila had come. Remember this place? I asked, looking around the familiar walls. I do, she said softly. It was the night everything changed. We sat in a booth, reminiscing, laughing, and reflecting on the journey that led us here. The diner that once represented heartbreak now symbolized growth, resilience, and the start of something beautiful. You deserve better than that night, I said, taking her hand. And now you have better, much better. She leaned into me. Much better indeed. As night fell, we walked to the rooftop of my building, city lights sparkling beneath us. Lila rested her head on my shoulder, a blanket wrapped around both of us. I want to promise something, she whispered. And what's that? That no matter what comes next, challenges, fears, life's unpredictability, we face it together. Always. I smiled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. It's a promise. Always. And in that quiet, snowy night, we knew that life might still throw obstacles our way, but together, we could handle anything. The night the world had seemed unfair had ultimately led to love, hope, and a future full of endless possibilities. Just when life seemed steady, the past returned, uninvited. One afternoon, as Lila finished her shift at the cafe, she froze near the door. Standing outside was Patricia, her former manager from the Maple Diner. Older, tired-looking, but still wearing that same sharp expression. Lila, Patricia said. Can we talk? Lila's heart pounded. Every instinct told her to walk away, but something stronger kept her rooted. I don't owe you anything, Lila replied calmly. Patricia sighed. I know. But I owe you an apology. Those words felt unreal. I was wrong, Patricia continued. I let pressure, stress, and my own failures fall on you. Firing you on Christmas night was cruel. Lila's hands trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of finally being seen. I lost my job, Patricia admitted. Karma, I guess. Lila nodded slowly. I forgive you. Not for you, but for me. And with that, she walked away, lighter than she had ever felt. Despite that victory, doubt crept in. Lila's promotion came with pressure, new responsibilities, new expectations. One night, she sat quietly on the couch, staring into nothing. I'm scared, she admitted. What if I mess this up? What if I don't belong here? I knelt in front of her. Do you remember the night you got fired? She nodded. That night didn't define you. What you did after did. She swallowed hard. What if I fail again? Then we get back up. Together. She leaned into me, her voice barely a whisper. Promise you won't leave if I fall? I held her tighter. I stayed when you had nothing. Why would I leave now? Opportunity struck, but with a cost. I was offered a job transfer to Seattle. Better pay. Bigger future. But it meant leaving Chicago. When I told Lila, silence filled the room. "You should take it," she said quickly. "That's not an answer," I replied. She looked away. "I don't want to be the reason you give something up. And I don't want success without you." Tears filled her eyes. "I've spent my whole life being left behind." I took her hands. "Then don't stay behind. Come with me." She froze. You mean that?" "I mean us." Lila didn't answer immediately. That night, she stood alone on her apartment balcony, city lights flickering below. For the first time in her life, the choice wasn't about survival, it was about belief. She whispered to herself. "You deserve better." The same words I had said to her that Christmas night. The next morning, she looked at me with quiet strength. "I'm coming with you," she said. "But not because I need you." I smiled. "Because you choose me," she finished. The city that broke her, and rebuilt her. Lila stood outside the Maple Diner one last time, not with pain, but gratitude. "That place gave me the worst night of my life," she said. "And somehow, the best future." We drove west under open skies, uncertainty ahead, but no fear. For the first time, Lila wasn't running from life. She was stepping into it. Seattle welcomed us with rain, coffee, and fresh starts. Lila quickly found work, then leadership, then respect. One evening, after a long day, she laughed and said, "Can you believe I almost thought I wasn't enough?" I kissed her forehead. "You were always enough. The world just needed time to catch up." Snow fell softly outside our apartment. A small tree. Warm lights. 2 mugs of cocoa. Lila smiled at me, eyes shining. "Last year, I was fired on Christmas night," she said. "This year, I'm home." I took her hand. "You didn't just survive," I said. "You rose." She leaned into me and whispered. "Thank you, for seeing me when I couldn't." No grand speeches. No dramatic fireworks. Just love, peace, and 2 people who chose each other. Sometimes, the best stories don't begin with miracles. They begin with someone saying, "You deserve to be treated better than this." And meaning it. Life in Seattle settled into a rhythm neither of us had expected, but both of us needed. Lila woke early now, confident, purposeful. No more flinching when managers spoke. No more apologizing for existing. She walked into every room knowing she belonged there. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the windows, we cooked dinner together. She laughed when I burned the garlic bread, shaking her head. "You know," she said casually, "a year ago I thought my life was over." I looked at her. "And now?" She smiled. "Now it feels like it finally started." That was the moment I knew. A few days later, I found Lila sitting at the kitchen table, holding a folded piece of paper. Her eyes were glassy. "What's that?" I asked gently. She hesitated. "A letter. I wrote it after I got fired. I never sent it." She handed it to me. "I don't know what I did wrong. I tried my best. If this is the end, I hope one day someone sees me differently." My chest tightened. She wiped her tears. I kept it to remind myself where I came from. I knelt beside her. "You didn't come from failure," I said. "You came from survival. And you turned it into strength." She smiled through tears. "You really believe that?" "With everything I am." December returned quietly. No chaos. No fear. No loss. Just warmth. Seattle glowed with lights as snow fell softly outside. Lila stood by the window, watching it fall, wrapped in one of my sweaters. "Christmas used to scare me," she admitted. "Now it feels like home." I reached into my pocket, heart racing. "Lila," I said. She turned. "I met you on the worst night of your life. And somehow, it became the best thing that ever happened to me." Her breath caught. "You were fired," I continued, "but you never broke. You rose. You grew. And you taught me what real strength looks like." I dropped to one knee. "Will you marry me?" Silence. Then laughter, shaking, joyful, overwhelmed laughter. "Yes," she cried. "Yes, of course yes." She dropped beside me, hands trembling as I slid the ring onto her finger. "I thought I'd lost everything," she whispered. "But I found my forever." I kissed her, snow falling behind us, the world quiet and perfect. We didn't want anything fancy. Just close friends. Warm lights. Soft music. At the small winter wedding, Lila walked toward me glowing, not because of the dress, but because of the journey behind her. When it was time for vows, she spoke first. "I was fired on Christmas night," she said softly. "I thought I was invisible. But you saw me." She took my hands. "You didn't save me. You reminded me who I already was." I swallowed hard. "I promise," I said, "to always remind you, on your worst days and your best, that you deserve love, respect, and kindness." 1 year later, Lila stood in her own cafe. Owner. Leader. Free. She smiled at a young waitress nervously adjusting her apron. "Hey," Lila said gently. "You're doing great. And remember, no matter what, you deserve to be treated better than this world sometimes offers." I watched from the corner, heart full. That Christmas night, the same date that once broke her, we sat together, watching snow fall outside our window. Lila rested her head on my shoulder. "Funny," she said. "If you hadn't walked into that diner." I smiled. "Sometimes," I said, "the worst moments are just life clearing space for something better." She squeezed my hand. And together, we watched the snow fall. Not as survivors anymore, but as home.